Hello, my name is Fraser Simons. This is my channel, Springboard Thought. Today I'm going to be talking about a long-listed book on the Giller Prize in Canada, Astra, by Cedar Bowers. This is a prize in Canada that is the most lucrative. It's $100,000 for the winner, $10,000 for shortlisted books. I'm not sure if long-listed books get something, probably, but I'm not aware of it. And this did not make the shortlist, which came out 2 days ago, I think it was announced. But it is quite a good book. I have mixed feelings about it though, so let's get into it. Astra is a girl who is born on a commune. She has no supervision basically, or parental guidance or socialization as she grows up. We start the book with the chapter of Raymond, who is her father, learning about Astra's mother being pregnant, and then the book proceeds to jump chronologically in her life to different people that have affected her in some way, and they usually have a central tension to them and have some realization about Astra that is used to peripherally characterize her for us. It's an interesting concept that more or less tends to work, but this book has some pretty deep themes that can get a little bit muddied when you think of how it's conceptually executed, because Raymond essentially disclaims all responsibility for her. And in fact, he has a line that I can't remember, but it's like, you're a child of the cosmos, essentially, which is just like me, you should just do whatever you want and it will work out. And he completely ignores his privilege and his responsibility. And basically it ends up traumatizing Astra pretty severely and even physically when she develops a scar on her face due to negligence. And we see the ramifications of this throughout her life and her grappling with her trauma, sometimes running away from it, sometimes confronting it. But what is a little bit strange about that for me is that Astra as a protagonist that is suffering harm and trauma and processing these things, it's really difficult to figure out exactly who she is, because the point of the book is to see how well you can know somebody by viewing them from a distance and from the locked room of other people's lives, and for which she comes into contact with, and sometimes she's quite close with them, but we're never actually inside Astra's mind. And so characterizing her and her trauma via somebody else just feels a little bit squirmy to me, basically. And additionally, it kind of sets up a strange structure for each chapter, because we do have the central tension that is happening that pulls us, whoever the character is, their lens towards Astra, and we know we'll learn something about Astra and it will probably affect her life in some way. But the actual character that we're in the head of doesn't matter insofar as to characterize Astra and nothing else. So we never really develop an attachment, or at least I didn't develop an attachment, because I knew with the framing device that these people didn't actually really matter. They do affect Astra's life, but it isn't really a good enough reason to have that perspective in my mind, even though at a meta level and conceptually it's interesting, and it is satisfying by the end of it, because it ties in to pretty directly some of the previous chapters that felt a little bit perfunctory, but you're still having to invest that time and that effort into a reframe, getting situated in the fiction again, getting situated with a new character that will quickly be moved on from. So it's definitely a mixed bag for me. And then what it has to say about giving somebody with trauma a voice also feels a little bit odd to me. And the strange thing about it too is that you don't get the satisfaction of a typical short story arc from those characters, because we know that they are there to feed us information about Astra. So there's nothing to be gained structurally from the actual chapters either. And some of the people, most of them I would say, do communicate something about trauma, in that when people recognize somebody who's a little bit off of center and out of the in-group, especially for people who are traumatized, typically the power dynamics are that that person will most likely take advantage of somebody with trauma, because they know that they don't have the tools to push back and have some of their own agency. And there is a kind of arc in the story in which Astra is confronted with those types of people and needs to figure out who she is and come into her own, or sort of succumb to the wills of other people. And I like that quite a bit as well. But it's still strange that we're always in the headspace of people that want to generally, whether they're aware of it or not, project their own will onto Astra and get her to do what they want and what they think is right, and sort of, or just make value judgments about Astra without really knowing her. And then usually it being flipped on its head somehow, like, oh, I was wrong about Astra. And it seems like that happens often enough that we're like, yeah, okay, we get it. You know, what you thought about Astra wasn't true. And so it feels like it's sort of hitting you over the head with that specific point a couple times, instead of being more eclectic with what it's communicating in each chapter. So overall, I gave it 4 stars, which is like a 3.5 rounded up for me. The fact that it is something that I don't agree with, I feel, doesn't mean that I need to knock a star off of it, because I rate things with expectations, and 3 stars is meets my expectations, whereas structurally and conceptually, this is still an interesting book, even though if I don't think that it is communicating the right things about a person that has been affected as Astra was, or if it's the right framing device or what I would like prefer or use myself. It's still, I don't think that is like a criteria that I can project onto a rating, and it definitely exceeded my expectations. I didn't expect it, and I think that's noteworthy and interesting. Even if it fails or succeeds, it's something that should be experienced and talked about, I think. So I think in terms of what it wants to provoke from other people, it should at least get that conversation going and make people, hopefully, by being uncomfortable in the headspace of people that interact with people who have suffered trauma like this, maybe it'll pop into their head that they exhibit the same sort of toxic interactions and behaviors as well, and that would be useful and good. So overall, I think it deserved to be longlisted. If you're following the Giller Prize, make sure to tell me in the comments which books that you recommend reading next, and if you think my reading of Astra is fair or good and in sync with yours. And also, if you've read Fight Night, I'd like to know what you have to say about that, or The Listening, which that video should be out already on my channel. So if it is, I'll link it, and if not, it will be coming soon. Anyway, that'll do it for me. I'll see you next video. Hope you're well. Bye.